My God, because they said, well, this is our concern, CRTC, about radio. Radio is loud and strident. Radio lacks substance. Radio music is limited in scope. Radio is unduly commercialized. Radio is imitative. It sounds the same everywhere. Radio news presentations are repetitive. Radio entertainment programming is limited. Radio personalities are not involved. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Did we write this? Mm-hmm. And then they're talking about the excellence in broadcasting. High quality service exists where conscious attention is paid to the craft and profession of broadcasting at every level.
That came back to honest.
That was a mistake. We believed them.
Yeah.
From management and policy directions to the care taken by technicians and on-air hosts. I mean, not even like DJs or like on-air hosts, and that's exactly what they should be. The programming should be varied, should be comprehensive, it should be
varied and comprehensive.
Should be of high standard and predominantly using Canadian creative.
Peter, you're absolutely right. We saw ourselves reflected all the way through this document. This is what we were doing at the time. Are you giving us the finger, or Williams?
No,
Okay.
what I'm thinking about is that that's how institutional authority deals with opposition, is they suck you in to think that they're doing what you want until it's too late.
What were those famous 9 words that Ronald Reagan campaigned on in 1979? I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Yeah, right.
Welcome to Conspiracies Are Us.
I remember when that policy came out, how much time was spent reading it and reflecting on it and helping you to write the response to our response to that policy.
Well, actually, I didn't write the response. We hired someone to write it. A fellow named Bruce Cameron, a former radio station, absolutely, a radio station manager.
Yep.
And then we let him be, and he wrote our suggested complimentary look at what the commission should be pumping out at the end of their survey of solicited voices that they had. And I remember Randy and I reading this document that he put together, and it was the most illiterate. And we thought, oh, good God, we're going to have to rewrite this. But it's due on Friday, you know.
Oh, yeah, we had many all-nighters writing and rewriting.
Well, we actually said that. Screw it. Let's just submit this thing, and if some.
I guess I'm thinking of the license application. How much effort we put into crafting the language and
well,
that.
this is a source. This policy is a source of foreground programming, and again, we just thought,
do they still use that expression?
Foreground programming, or the type of program that demands much closer attention from its audience, caters to the needs of listeners who work unusual hours and are at home, students, people in retirement and at leisure, and those who seek a more involved listening experience. God damn it, that's me. And areas of concern, range of content, and editorial policy must be clearly identifiable. In order to ensure that there will be a substantial amount of this type of programming on FM, the Commission has decided to revoke the requirement that FM stations devote 20% of their programming to material in the arts, letters, and science category, and instead require that FM stations in Canada devote a certain proportion of their broadcast time to the presentation of material in a foreground format. And we thought, this is manna from heaven.
It is. I mean,
my Lord.
That's you kind of stopped when I was trying to lead you someplace else with yes, music was a driver at the station, but we also offered opportunities for diversity in opinions and voices that was unheard of, except in a limited way at the CBC. But we were the first station to have a women's program. We had,
and you did a very good impersonation of that, by the way.
Why, thank you. And we had the Consumers Digest. Aren't you mispronouncing that again, Williams?
Consumers Digest.
And we had an what was the racing program? The auto
Hot Wheels, maybe, or something like that.
Yeah, I and there were all of these different foreground format programs.
Well, I'll tell you exactly what the categories are, which were theme programs, event coverage programs, stage presentation for programs, magazine programs, structured programs. We thought, yeah, we could do that.
Well,
we're there already.
We were
exactly.
And we were doing it in a highly creative, and I think for the level we were at, professional. This word will come
That's
back
a
again.
dirty word for crying out loud.
Do the best we can.
So,
Give
what
Randy.
I'd like to ask is, we were quite excited about the possibilities of FM, and then, like I said, one day I came in and found out that Peter had resigned. What happened?
What had happened was, very briefly, is that, and you were there at the time, actually.
Yeah,
I had called a sort of a general staff meeting, and I had a couple people in the executive that weren't doing any work at all, and I wanted to, perhaps inappropriately, change that. And I think what happened was that there was a general feeling that these guys were good guys, and and I just felt, well, I'm not going to be able to progress this station if I have a staff like this. So I really can't continue to waste my time. Now, as it turned out, after I resigned, those people disappeared because they weren't committed at all. And then Randy came in. I would actually suggest that my era was sort of a pre-modern 70 to 74 era. Randy brought in the modern era, which was 75. No, don't laugh. I think no,
I think that's fair.
And I think everything now is postmodern in a sense. I don't know when that started, probably 95 or something of the sort. But it brings us to Randy and his fantastic ability to bring together, and on many different levels, a presentation and an application that was acceptable by the CITC. Now, I'd like to know, because I wasn't there at the time, what were the challenges that you faced in 1974, 75 in bringing that together? Because you had to get funding, you had to talk to a number of people, faculty, and in the Senate, and so on and so forth. So why don't you go over that for us as well?
Okay.
Don't mention Halifax.
No, Halifax. What happened in Halifax stays in Halifax. When I first became station manager, the first problem was internal, and that was exactly the concerns that Peter brought up, and that is that either we were going to be organized, we were going to be dedicated to producing the best radio we could, or there really wasn't any point in going ahead.
No, we just go back to being a club.
And so, just as Peter cut the number of on-air personalities in half, I helped to abolish elections for the executive.
And I think that was very important.
I think that was really important, because to have to go through potential student revolutions every year, people unhappy and putting everything up to a vote, there's no way to run
It was a personality contest.
That's exactly
many,
right.
many ways.
That's exactly right.
Didn't want that. Wanted everyone dedicated to the task. So there were some internal differences of opinion, and there are some things that I might wish I hadn't said or done back then. But
we'll get to your appellation, Tony Hitler, later on.
Tony Hitler. There was just, I'm fine with consensus. Always have been. But if people couldn't decide, then I would. And
that was looked upon as undemocratic, and we were coming out of maybe a too flattened type of arrangement with maybe too many people with not enough care having equal say. And I think that the fact that you abolished the election was of rather important post was very important, because the CRTC was looking towards that type of solid. In quotation marks, professional aspects.
They're looking for that kind of organization stability,
right,
cohesiveness, and gradually, I think everyone who wanted to got on board, and then we could take a look outward at writing an application for an FM broadcasting license. And
what about the financing?
Well, just a sec. There's one other element that I want to mention here about when elections stopped. We began to build a meritocracy here. It was about capability, and it was about what you could do and what you could contribute. It wasn't about how popular you were, or what who were your friends at the station. And that was, as Peter said, that was a huge shift for the station. It was a rough time, but once we got past that, it changed, because people came with a dedication that in numbers that perhaps wasn't there in the same way before.
But also what happened within that context is that Randy was looked upon as someone who was undemocratic, dogmatic, and it's, well, I'm not saying that's not true.
No.
Heaven forbid.
No, but I think that really sort of people that were sensitive to that type of upwards and onwards necessity thought that they should not be sacrificed.
And I remember walking from the CUSE offices with Dave Mowbray, and David was somewhat upset at the way things had gone.
No question.
But he was a good guy, and I knew he was a good guy. And he told me on that walk, he said, "Randy, it's not just about what you do, it's how people perceive what you do."
Absolutely.
And I've never forgotten that. And
that's actually Auer's law of psychology. It's not what is, it's how people perceive it.
Well, I was a good stooge that day. And I really thought that was important for me to act upon. And I tried to be more collegial. It was kind of like that insight was the same as one day Craig came into my office and said, "Do you realize how much your mood affects everyone else around here?" And I looked at him, he said, "If you're having a bad day and you come in here looking like that, it affects everyone." And I thought, holy shit. So early on, there was some personal stuff going on with me as I realized there's no way I can do this by myself. And I remember talking to Craig, walking across the railroad tracks and asking him if he would be assistant station manager. And he said he'd think about it, and he accepted. And of all the early decisions that I made, I think that was the best decision I ever made. And now I had somebody that I could really talk to. We were on the same wavelength. He had a different style than I did, so it was a good check and balance.
Good cop, bad cop. Commonly known as
Tyrant and Toady.
My God.
Or Randy and the wife, as they used to say.
Hitler and Churchill.
Yeah, Hitler and Churchill. But once we had a good functioning executive, it was time to take a look at what the challenges were, and I think there were three of them. One was raising money.
Yes.
Two was building the physical plant.
Yes.
What was it going to be? Where was it going to go? How were we going to do it? How are we going to distribute the
which,
the
of course,
broadcast?
circles back to raising money.
It absolutely does. And then the programming. How
Right.
were we going to, because 724 was what we were looking for, and how were we going to do that? How were we going to include the community outside the radio station proper, that is Carleton University? What were we going to do? And
I'd add one more category there, because you made us more aware of we needed to develop not the programs and community programs, but we had to develop allies out there who were going to make this work. Allies within the university community and allies within the wider community. And we did very well for a while.
there was a whole book that we sent to the CRTC with our application that had
That's right.
we sent a questionnaire out to every community organization we could think of throughout the Ottawa region, and there were over 100. I think there were like 132 responses to do you like the idea of a
Would
new
you
radio
support us?
station?
And
Would
that-
you
yeah.
support us? Here's what we're trying to do. Would you be interested in doing some programming? And I think that really helped the application.